okay, just take my hand through it all. You will Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. This is Gail of Gaia, and this is Free Range, where we graze on wild ideas. And we got some wild ideas to graze on, and I think you're going to love it. I have a very interesting guest who has very interesting information on a variety of topics, from Watch the Water to the saga about Enki and Enlil. So anyway, without further ado, let me bring on Michael Lee Hill. Welcome,
Hey,
Michael.
Gail. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I know you're going through a lot at this time, and I'm really honored to have you on my show. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. Yeah, it's been a weird couple months, but as they say, what doesn't kill you just makes you stronger, right?
Yeah, they do say that. I guess it does. It's true.
Well,
There's
we're
truth
going to
in
roll
it.
with that, but I'm kind of sick of it.
I can appreciate that. I'm going to bring Christine on, our dot connector. She'll be working the chat mainly, but once in a while she has some good questions. So
Fantastic.
There she goes.
Hello there. I am excited for this show. This is great.
I'm excited too.
Good. Welcome.
It's awesome. Well, the energies. Tell us about. Oh, you have a very extensive background, Michael. You're a musician. You're almost. You seem like a scientist. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah, imagine that. And water technology. Oh my goodness. Yeah, tell us. You can tell us better than I can tell them right now, because I don't have it right in front of me, because you've done so many things. You do films too, and a UFO experiencer. Now I'm remembering.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, all of the above. I guess first and foremost, I am a musician, and that's been my love of, lifelong love. Now it's my second love because I met my beloved, but we'll call it the first/second love. But it's strange how all this happened and frequency became so involved, because being a musician has been an utmost part of my life, and I'm very serious about it. I won a nationwide guitar contest that was sponsored by Steve Vai. I don't know if you know who Steve is, but
Stevie
played for David.
No.
Close.
No.
Steve Vai played for David Lee Roth when he quit Van Halen, and he also played for Frank Zappa before that. And he's went on. He's a Grammy Award-winning musician, but he's truly not from here. And he was one of my idols, and he had a guitar contest, and the stars lined up, and I ended up winning it. And that was strange, because that actually I was involved in a UFO documentary at that time with David Sarita, and it's called From Here to Andromeda. That is available on Amazon Prime right now, I think for free, if anyone wants to see it. But ended up getting, because Steve Vai and a guy named Joe Satriani, I don't know if you're familiar with Joe, but another famous musician. And Joe Satriani was in our film. It's been surreal. Meeting those guys might be even weirder to me than meeting the Anunnaki. But let me say, because this all leads up to the musician part of it. First of all, I ended up on the History Channel, UFO Hunters, season 1. The show is called Alien Contact, and that is because some of my UFO footage of UFOs over Lake Erie went viral. And right now, your listeners can check out my YouTube channel. It's Michael Lee Hill. You'll see it has over 5.4 million views, which still, I can't believe it. But that led the History Channel to my door, and ended up being on the Alien Contact show. And that led to something very strange, because they flew me to Boston to have my blood work done by a Harvard professor. His name was David Sistrom. And in that show, they reveal that I don't have normal human blood. Can you imagine that? That sounds just as weird to me as it sounds to anyone else, you know?
Really? What do
A
you
matter
mean
of fact,
not have normal human blood?
yeah.
What?
Matter of fact, I was like, wait a minute, this isn't a TV show anymore. What are you talking about? And the Harvard professor, he was actually kind of mean about it. He goes, what do you think unknown means? We don't know what to tell you. He said, if I had to venture a guess, there's a virus at play that is releasing massive amounts of an enzyme called creatine kinase into my bloodstream. Normal amounts are 25 parts per liter of blood, but it can go up to about 250 to 300 parts per liter of blood if you've ripped a muscle or had a heart attack or something similar, because creatine kinase brings extra oxygen into the bloodstream to facilitate healing. And so if 25 is the normal parts per liter of blood, mine was at 2100. So you can imagine my blood is super oxygenated, and which brings an extra amount of chi or prana into the body that's available at a cellular level. And that led to that episode aired in March of 2008. And in the summer of 2008, I met these beings who introduced themselves to me at it's called Sirius Rising. It was a festival in New York. And
sorry. I don't know
no worries. Matter of fact, my wife's probably going to be calling in here.
Sorry.
So, well, no worries. So at this festival, I was approached by some beings who, mind you, I didn't know what the Anunnaki was at that time. This is 2008. There was no Ancient Aliens on TV. Matter of fact, I'll just get back to the point. They said they had a way of letting me know they weren't from here. And the way exactly was they became faceless in front of me or hidden, We can get into Marduk Ra. Amun Ra means the hidden one. Now I know why. They can make themselves appear faceless, or I guess anything that they want you to see. But this was in the flesh too. This is nothing against channeling, or I'm sitting in front of a person and they're going, hey, we heard you've been filming us over Lake Erie and we want to talk to you. And they said, in your past, we've been known as the Anunnaki. And in your past, you were known as Ea Enki, the water bearer. And they said the anomaly that was revealed on the History Channel regarding your blood is an indicator that you're of our hybrid bloodline called the Nephilim in the Bible. And that's not my bag, I didn't know what the Nephilim was. I sure as hell didn't know what an Enki was. Well, what's an Anunnaki, right? At that time, I actually remember coming home and Googling, Anunnaki, and there was few to nothing on the internet at that time. But so that's what started this whole thing, is filming UFOs, being on the UFO Hunter show, them revealing I didn't have normal human blood, then meeting the Anunnaki and saying, you're one of us, and this is your blood anomaly is an indicator. But that was just the beginning. This is 2008 we're talking about. And you can imagine the education I've got from then till now.
Oh, my word. Yes. That's why, I looked at your site and I listened to some of your, what I had time for of your videos, and I'm going, oh my goodness, this man's a warehouse of information. So,
what? I'm glad to, first of all, a song that goes unheard is just a waste of time. To me, it's important that people are listening. So thank you. And I can tell you right now that I was contacted by Bigelow Aerospace, who were the ones that was funded by the Pentagon, this new, the UFO secret program by the Pentagon. And simultaneously in 2008, I was contacted by the NSA Reverse Engineering Secret Division. And it's also remote viewers. The two are intertwined because to communicate with multidimensional beings, you have to use telepathy, or they call it topological thinking. And no one asked the question, what's it like to meet a multidimensional being? Well, I can tell you, it's pretty discombobulating.
I was just like, let me ask you that question. What was it like meeting these guys, Michael? I mean, oh my word.
Well, I can tell you, they have proven to me they can communicate through anything or anyone, anytime or any when. And it's they started, we can back this up, but they started using crop circles, kind of like a chalkboard in a classroom, to communicate how certain geometry was attached to what they called cosmic harmonious frequencies, which gets into the 432 hertz subject.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know they were going to be using crop circles, by the way. But
I have had a couple. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's all good. It's been a trip. That's all.
I bet. Well, I was just going to, when you mentioned crop circles, I was just going to mention that there are two people in particular that I've had on my show in the past that have talked about their experience directly with crop circles and indicating that there's energetics that happen as a result of actually being physically there in the crop circle.
Mm-hmm.
And Patty Greer.
Oh yeah, I'm friends with Patty.
Yeah. And then Patricia Corey too. She went to quite a few different crop circles
I'm
as
not
well.
familiar with, but Patty is a dear friend of mine. I met her at the 2009 UFO Congress. We became friends, and I'm Native American Indian, and we have Star Knowledge Conferences, which is the revealing of contact from star beings with us Native Americans. First Nation elders for thousands of years. And so I got Patty involved because I'm a fan. So we got mutual friends.
Well, somebody says our show's not going up on Rumble. I wonder why. But anyway, that's fascinating. You spoke about the type of Native American, and you were, I remember you got one of those flashes that like Alex Collier talked about, where you see past lives, correct?
Yes and no. When I met the Anunnaki, I know this sounds crazy, but they said, we're going to remove your memory blocks. And they took out a device, and I learned from the NSA that this is a very typical kind of device that they use. That if they want to know what you know, I was told they have much better ways of doing it than a lie detector test. And what this technology does is hit your third eye and go right through your pineal to the Akashic records. They can see exactly who you have ever been, who you are, and who you're going to be, more than likely. And that's when everything changed.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Man, I don't even know where to get into all of this, because the crop circle part of it is fascinating, because that's where it was cemented, this communication. And I mean, we can go back to the very beginning, okay? When I met them and they told me I was once known as Ea Inky. And by the way, I do want to get into, I know those are some big claims, And like I said, though, when I learned the name Inky at first, I didn't know what Inky even was. Now I do. But to me, it was like someone coming up and going, hey, man, you're the Easter Bunny. All right, whatever, But now, because of the education and into cosmic harmonious frequencies, and because what I will say is they told me I was once known as the water bearer. That made no sense to me whatsoever. But because of Richard Hoagland, do you know who Richard is?
Yes, I've heard of him. Yeah.
Yes, right on. He was NASA's spokesperson for the Apollo missions and whatnot. But he contacted me and said, will you be on my show? And I was like, well, yeah, this guy was a hero of mine. When I needed answers, I was led to his information. So during the show, he's like, we know your story sounds batshit crazy to a lot of people, but the numbers, he said, NASA's been looking into how energy flows multidimensionally for a very long time. And your numbers are right on the money. So he said, I'd like to arrange for NASA to look into your work, because we'll get into that. What I've done is hired scientists to use a new science called cymatics, which is the science of making frequency visible. It makes the invisible visible. And are you familiar?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Cool.
When they take like sand or something and the vibration
Yeah,
makes a form. Yeah.
exactly. That's how it started, and now it's evolved to they use a big container of water and they pump frequency or actual sounds. Like the people that use the most advanced technology right now are called Cymoscope. And I hired them. I just sent them a 20-second sound file from my studio of my guitar going bow, bow, bow. Nothing fancy, right? But they imaged it using their equipment. Like I said, it's a big vat of water. They pump frequency or a sound file through it. Then there's a camera that records what's happening on the surface of the water. And right away, I knew something was up because they said, we've used this to image everything, every frequency known to mankind, and every like baby noises, dolphin sounds, you name it. But we've never seen this kind of complexity or dimensionality before. And they said, but we've never imaged an electric rock guitar amp. Isn't that something? Like, yes, rock magic. They said it's actually, guitar amps are one of the only things that still use vacuum tubes. That gives you that Van Halen kind of crunch, you know. And he said he thinks what that's doing to the signal is causing this crazy dimensionality. So he asked me
That's
if they could.
interesting because I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
No, it's all good.
vacuum tubes were in the old televisions also, right?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, they go back to 50s and 60s.
So that's
Yeah.
kind of interesting the way that, TV is supposed to be a mechanism for, mind control and stuff like that.
Yeah. We
Yeah,
can
they have
get
the
into that because
technology.
I think both sides are using it, you know. Everything can be
Okay.
used as a lever or you can beat the shit out of someone with it. And
Wow.
um yeah, and the same thing with mind control. It gets into pulses of light, certain, rhythmic patterns. But what it does is put the human into a state of consciousness that they're more susceptible to suggestion. But,
Yeah.
Yeah. Within like
what
5 or 6
suggestions
seconds.
is of
Yeah.
very important. What suggestions come after that, then, right?
Yeah,
Because the light
exactly.
side can use it
It,
just
it
as much as
reminds
light.
me, yeah, it reminds me of the movie They Live again,
Oh,
where
yeah,
they what you see is not what you're getting, but
So I didn't mean
and
to
the
throw you off
subliminal
topic.
messages on the TV, the and
yeah. I've
everywhere
learned
that
a
we don't
lot
even.
about it from Enlil, actually. We can get into all of that, but he broke everything down for me. What exactly is going on? Who the dark are? What role that they were providing here on a spiritual level? Because they have a job, just like I call them Team Bad Cop, and there's also a Team Good Cop. That's who
Yeah.
I represent. And I think all these people saying the Nephilim are behind the world's problems and well, no, man. Inky's oldest bloodline on this planet comes in through the Native American Indians. And what race has been trampled under this evil machinery worse than any other race on this planet is the Native American
Native
Indians.
Americans, yes,
Yeah, it's the
far and
worst
away.
genocide on this planet. Some say up to 100 million. So it's not all of the story. Some of it's true because there was a part of the Anunnaki family that did not look favorably upon mankind because they said we always give our energy and our I am away to illusionary outside sources, and we always choose
Isn't that what
to.
they taught us, though?
Yes, yes, but you know
Excuse
what?
me.
They're whispering in our ears, but they ain't forcing anyone. It's all the atrocities of mankind have been done through human hands. It's humans that have decided to bite the dark carrot. Team Bad Cop is very good at dangling dark carrots, but it's the human that has to bite. That's another thing I learned is
Uh,
the dark have no dominion whatsoever unless you open the back door and say, come on in.
hmm.
Well,
Okay.
we'll, ha-
Well,
we'll
I
have to
just
get into, and you have to get into that some more for sure. I didn't mean to
Well,
just throw you off of your original conversation of cymatics I think that's where you're going.
Okay. Yeah, please keep me in track because
Okay.
my brain's getting pretty multidimensional and it hops around a lot.
I don't know what my excuse is, but I seem to have that problem at times.
Well, you can use that. It's becoming multidimensional.
Oh, okay.
I give that to you.
Well, thank you. And I don't have to think I'm half crazy all the time, but not all the time. But anyway.
Okay, getting back to cymatics. What had happened was I first of all, after I met the Anunnaki and they told me what they had told me, being Ea Inki, the water bearer, in the beginning of 2009, I thought, well, prove it. You know what I mean? If you are who you say you are, and I am who you say I am, encode the name Ea Inki into a crop circle. And I can tell you, I am a student. Obviously, I already got Patty Greer involved. I am a student of the crop circle phenomenon. And I will take notice if you put the name Ea Inki into a crop circle, then I'll that's my confirmation. You know what I mean? And I thought, what a silly request. Can you imagine a big crop circle with like Inki written in cursive? Looks like a big birthday cake.
But they did it, didn't they?
They did it. Yeah, that came in 2011. And because what they did, because I got cocky after that. After I said, after I thought, what a silly request, my next thought was, well, figure out a cool way to do it, do it. And actually, I got kind of cocky and I said, and encode it with something only I would be able to decode. And that gets into everything that happened because that was the beginning of 2009. The crop circle didn't show up until 2011. And they did encode the name Ea Inki into a crop circle, but they encoded it in ASCII binary code around a 7-pointed star. And so that crop circle became super important to me because they did what I asked as confirmation of that meeting with them, And man, I feel bad because this is so much easier if I got all the images of these crop circles. And it's hard to talk about a crop circle and not see it, but I'll do the best I can. For anyone that wants to see the actual crop circles, go to michaelleehill.net and go to my blog and open up the Anunnaki are communicating through crop circles. And you can see all these crop circles. They're real. They happen. But what happened at this point was, so there was a 2-year time lag between when I asked them for the crop circle and when it appeared. So during those 2 years is when I was led to the science of cymatics and took a deep dive, and I started to be really tutored into why, really how frequency is so important. But what I got to tell you is I was taken into the reverse engineering division of the NSA. It's called the ACIO, by the way.
Oh,
are you familiar?
Yeah. Do you know Jessica Morocco and James Rink and a number of other people? Well, Jessica
I know James.
Jessica does a show with ACIO, Peter the Insider.
I've heard. I'm not familiar. I know James, and I know he was on the periphery because I was involved with those communications. But they were very interested.
He's a friend. I've had him on the show before too, just like Penny Bradley. Yeah. You know her too, don't you?
Well, yeah, yes, indeed. Yeah, good people. But yeah, I was taken into the inside of the ACIO and actually into the Labyrinth group.
Wow.
And so what I can tell you is what I can do, because first of all, nothing against anyone, but can they prove it? Well,
exactly.
A.R. Borden is the one named 15 from the Wingmakers lore. And I got a ton of learning material, ebooks, essays from 15 of the Wingmakers, And at the end of his life, because I worked with them from 2008 until 2013, and I acquired quite a library of information. And he passed away in 2013. It wasn't a natural death. He part of the work I did with them and a 7-member team specifically ended up in them taking him out. because we screwed up the transhumanist agenda of depopulation in 2012, and they weren't happy about it. And yeah, but so the ACIO is all the learning material I got from the ACIO. At the end of his life, he said, release all this to your network of people because the time for secrecy is over. So right now, no one has to wait. Go to Team Inky, go to the file section, and you'll see I've already uploaded all the learning material from the ACIO, and it's on new life physics, how the science behind how things really work, and even what gets behind the politics that's going on right now. And it's all available. You don't have to wait for anything. There's one other group I'd like, because 15 wanted to start something called the Linkage Institute, because the Link meeting was aboard an Anunnaki mothership, and it was many races. And they looked into events that were happening in the near future. You'll see I've released the briefings for the 2011 meeting, and that entailed everything, the actual project I was brought into in 2012. All the information is on there, and I've actually released my NSA tasking instructions and everything, man. And I can tell you, I'm a guitar player, rock and roll guitar player, and I can't make this shit up if I tried. This is a quantum physicist that's on the level of like Nikola Tesla, but he's used the Anunnaki intelligence accelerator technology, and now it's all been applied to team members, by the way, including myself. But we can get into that, man. We're going right in the deep end. This intelligence accelerator technology, mind you, we had a 7-member team. It caused one of the members to go insane because it takes the governor off how much information your waking state consciousness is processing your reality at about 27 frames per second. You can prove that to yourself by taking a strobe light. And as it strobes, it gets faster and faster. But when it hits 27 frames per second, it turns to a solid white light. Guess what? It's still pulsing. It's just your consciousness that's taking in all your sensory data from your 5 senses is only 27 frames per second. But your unconsciousness is bringing in millions of bits of information per second. That's why hypnosis works, right? So imagine technology that would remove the governor and have, when you need the information, now you have the whole pool of everything that's in your library available.
How did the governor get put there in the first place?
How did what?
The governor, I mean, the control mechanism that keeps, the information from streaming to
the Anunnaki. Is the Anunnaki. They've been in charge of human evolution for a very long time, and they, way back in time. And
right.
This experiment to accelerate human conscious evolution by making us experience our own mental energy unbiasedly. Whatever we put out, we get back. I don't know what the number is, 10 times. Actually, it fluctuates. And it fluctuates with moon phases. So as you know, at a full moon, we all go a little crazy, right? People end up going into jail and in the hospitals. So it's actually, it's opposite of what you'd think, that on full moons, it's at its strongest, and at total dark phases, is that it's calmest, and it fluctuates like a heartbeat. And that technology is actually being broadcast from the moon. But I can tell you, it's about ready to get an overwrite, because man, I'm jumping around here, but I'm hitting some things that I don't usually get into.
The frequency from the moon came from Saturn and used to come down from the moon, and also caused, it wasn't good frequency. Let me just put it that way.
That's definitely fluctuates. Yes. And it fluctuates. What was told to me by Enlil was, I asked them, why would anyone choose to be on the 7 Lords of Darkness side? I'm talking about Emerald Tablets of Thoth. If you're familiar. The 7th tablet is called the 7 Lords. And Enlil, I was invited to an ancient Native American ceremony called a sun dance. And when I refused to participate, and some Native American cultures still practice what you would call blood sacrifice ceremony. From Mexico, actually. It came in that the bloodline entered there, but it's
Who
not
does
looked
that?
favorable. Well, I don't want to say names, but some Native American and Indian cultures.
Oh,
And
okay,
just look up what a Sundance is, and there
Oh, yeah,
it's
yeah. From
evolved.
isn't that the Sioux?
Yes, mainly.
Yeah. You don't know my
So
background.
what happened?
Yeah.
What's that?
No, I was just gonna say I was married to a full blood Omaha Indian, which is a branch off the Lakota, and I have two
Inlo
sons
came
that
in
are.
through the Dakota line, and now, he's told people who he was. His name is Chief Golden Light Eagle, and he's been on Ancient Aliens many times. My wife's calling. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Go.
She'll have to wait. You know what though? She might keep calling me back over and over
Why don't you
again.
go ahead and just take it and just take a minute and say you'll talk to her. Finish
I
your
hope
after
this
you get done.
doesn't. All right, hang on.
So interesting, Gail.
Oh, yes, isn't it fascinating? I know he's got a ton of information, and I will, be having him on again so he can share that information. And
Definitely, because we're just getting like an overview now, right?
right. Well, I'm also interested when I wanted to ask him when he gets back on about this intelligence accelerator. Are we talking about something that is unnatural? I mean,
I'm back.
Oh, good.
Oh,
okay. I've
good
got a question
time for
about
questions.
Did Sarah come on the line with us?
No.
She was on my end. I could hear all of you.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
But now you're not on my speaker phone part. Let me
Sometimes the audio will switch over on you, and I don't know why it does that, but it does.
Yeah, I don't see the button for
I got a question for you though that is burning away at me. It's when you're talking about the intelligence accelerator, you're not talking about anything that is like a Neuralink, are you?
No, it's not. It's spiritual technology. It's not anything artificial, and it's on a quantum level. And what I understand is we're all under version 1.0. There's no one that isn't under it. So imagine though that you're under technology that's making you experience your own mental energy. And
The
a
truth
lot of
of
humans right
yourself.
now are there's a lot of fear and doubt in the mass consciousness, the mass belief system.
Can you
So it amplifies a lot of the fear, but that time period is now over, they tell me. Man, I really need to figure out how to get this volume back on.
Okay, Michael. Do you see the settings underneath the picture?
Yeah.
That little wheel.
On the last one, the wheel, the tool, the screw, whatever that is.
Yeah. Click on that and it'll bring up audio. And you got to make sure that you're on the correct audio for what's,
video,
it'll be
audio.
either computer or the microphone, usually. That's how it
I
works
don't
for
see
me.
the gear thing on this.
Really?
Yeah.
Should be right where our pictures that you see the 3 pictures, right?
Yeah.
And then right underneath the picture, there's different selections of how you can, view the picture part. And then under that, you should see a microphone, a camera, what looks like a computer, a person, a plus, and then a wheel.
No, not on mine,
settings.
unfortunately.
Oh, for heaven's
well,
sake.
can you hear me? I guess we can.
Yeah, I can
can't
hear
really
you
hear
fine.
you. Like if you start talking, I can't hear you. So I guess yell Mike.
Oh, okay.
But we're all under version 1.0 of this intelligence accelerator software. It was part of an experiment to save mankind. Because we weren't evolving. The Pleiadians looked at human evolution, and 99 out of 100 times we were evolving technologically faster than spiritually. And we just got to the point where we aimed our nuclear weapons at each other, and we imploded as a race and destroyed ourselves. So the intelligence acceleration software was an attempt to make us process the human mass consciousness shadow work as quickly as possible. Because if you're made to, take a deep dive into your shadow work, and that's what I was saying, this everyone's under 1.0, but the team that was brought in to do the work with 15, AR Borden, we had 2.0 used on us, and they said it just can't be used on most people. I hate to say that, because the analogy I was given is that, some people can take a chainsaw and make a beautiful swan out of a big chunk of ice. Well, if the ice is super frozen and hard and you take a chainsaw to it, it just shatters. It has to begin to melt. Then if it's got soft and it's got water on it, you can mold it into the shape that you want it. In the same way that if you use this version 2.0 on someone that hasn't done their spiritual homework and hadn't begun to weed the fear and doubt out of their own belief system, it could fracture the mind. And that's what happened to the one team member, because she was brought up in a very military upbringing, and she had a very compartmentalized mind. So there's a lot of areas. So once the governor was taken off, she started to experience and see enemies where there was no enemies. And, so if that makes any sense. But so 2.0 was used on us. I had, out of a 7-member team, each one of us had a member, and there was 3 teams of 2. And then AR Borden, 15 of the Wingmakers, was the 7th, and he was called what was called a wave guide. And my partner, who is all over my page, by the way, people don't know this, we don't talk about it. I should get him to come and do your show. His name's Joshua Abba, and he was my actual member in this team. And from what I was told, he handled it the best. The other female handled it the worst, and all the rest of us were landed somewhere in the middle. And I remember, it's all of a sudden the things that you still have to cleanse and to heal your chakras, to heal that shadow work, it comes up to play. And if it's too much, man, it takes a lot of people out. And I've seen it enter all of our lives, and it wasn't easy, but here I am, right? But I hope that answers a little bit about the intelligence acceleration software. Wow. But I can't tell you, after all of this, they asked me, do you think version 2.0 should be used on all of humanity? I said, no, absolutely not. Especially they said that this experiment was during the age of Pisces in the precessional cycle. And the second we entered the age of Aquarius, which 2016, by the way, not 2012, that we would have either got a thumbs up and move along to higher realms, or we'd get a giant do-over. And they said the very second we entered the age of Aquarius, we either made it or we didn't. So the fact that we're still talking, it was very close, though, because remember, I told you I was taken into an ancient ceremony where the 7 Lords of Light and the 7 Lords of Darkness were. Mm-hmm. That was June of 2016. December 21st, 2016 was the end of this Mayan calendar, Kali Yuga, grand cycle, Mm-hmm. So talking about cutting it close, but I know took a dive into the deep end here.
So in other words, basically what you're getting at, it's not going to be a total cataclysm, disaster type thing that humanity has experienced.
Yes and no, from what Enlil told me, and I can get into this too, by the way, of how this even happened, and I can prove to your audience He is who he says he is. Because at the Sundance, when I refused to participate, he said, Michael, Spirit is so happy that you refused to participate. Spirit looks at anyone who participates in these blood sacrifice ceremonies as prostitute. And he went on to explain everything that's going on. But after that, he said, I work with the 7 Lords of Light and the 7 Lords of Darkness. And I'm the only one who sits directly in the middle and holds a seat on both sides, both light and dark. And I have to offer Enlil, or Yahweh. That's another name he's known by. So so what happened was and I learned a lot at that point, but afterwards I found out that there was a Chief Yahweh who was known to the Cherokee and the Iroquois long before the First Testament, or the first part of the Bible. And this Chief Yahweh was said to be this chief who sat in between these two councils of war and peace chiefs. But he's the only one who held a seat on both sides, war and peace. And I thought, wait a minute, this is exactly the same thing Chief Golden White Eagle told me. And so the next time we were together and we were in the same vehicle, this is man to man, by the way, again, eye to eye, I said, Spirit, I said, this is awkward, but Spirit's led me to the information that you are Yahweh, Enlil, my brother. And he said, yes, I've done some pretty messed up things. And he said, this isn't the first time we've met, by the way. We've met before, and the last time was not pleasant. But I realize now that you are only showing me my own darkness. But your listeners can go on YouTube and type in Chief Golden Light Eagle, Ancient Aliens, and behind the scenes, you'll see him telling the producers of Ancient Aliens. They ask him, because he was a main chief of the Dakota and a spiritual leader. He's probably the most prominent Native American First Nation elder on the planet. His work is in the Smithsonian. And now I know why he brought me under. He's the one that brought me to the ceremony with the 7 Lords of Light and 7 Lords of Darkness. But he said, but no one knows who Enlil or Yahweh is anymore anyhow, so I just go by Chief. And that was, let me think here. That would have been around 2015. So from 2015 till 2023, when he dropped his robe, no, 2021, I'm sorry. We communicated, him knowing I'm Enki and me knowing he was Enlil, and there was much brotherly love flowing at the end. I learned a little bit, I understand his viewpoint a little bit more, and I see it every day when I turn on the news, that how we do give our energy away to illusionary outside sources, and we do abuse our power over others, over this planet, over Gaia.
Isn't that the result of programming?
Yes, but again,
your arm
yes,
isn't twisted.
The answer is yes. But it's programming that only gets kicked in unless the human decides to accept it and install program.
Well, and they say though that children, if you get them in the first 7 years and program them appropriately, that's something that they will carry the rest of their life in their subconscious, and we operate based more on our subconscious really than our conscious mind most of the time. Therefore, that would make it very difficult for humanity to recognize these things, especially when they're looking at a TV that's full of technology that is designed to program them even more. I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
I'm just sticking up for that.
Oh, no, understood. And it's not easy, but you did it. I did it. It is possible to break free of we've been hypnotized,
Yes.
But it's possible to break free and, become a co-creator. You got to realize that thoughts do create reality, and thought forms have an electromagnetic reality. There's waveform attached to thought and energy. Energy can't be created or destroyed. It needs to be transmuted. And no one's asked the question, well, how do you transmute a negative thought form? Well, you live it. All of us. That's the only way to transmute lower frequency dimensional energy is it comes up in your life and you have to choose love over fear. Then you'll transmute those energies into its higher octave of love. If not, the same crap keeps recirculating through your life. And even though, we've all been under the spell, right, of the programming.
Right. Yes.
But the only thing that they have to work with is fear. And once you know, if the thought forms are coming in and they're fear-based, I've learned to train yourself to say, well, thank you for showing me what I got to fear on. Now, what else is available? Once you ask what else is available, you sever that cord to the human mass unconsciousness, and you can create something new then. But most people will never ask what else is available. They think those first thought forms that enter your head, they think it's themselves because it enters your own mind and your own voice.
And it's not their own thought, is it?
It's not their own thought. It's the mass consciousness's thought. And no matter how much spiritual homework you do and how much weeding of the fear you get out of your own belief system, well, guess what? We're still part of the mass consciousness. That's why the wingmakers call it the next state of consciousness is the sovereign integral. It's like you got to understand that, yeah, we're an integral part of the whole, but we're sovereign. And but man, this gets into a weird thing because the seven lords of darkness, I was brought before both sides and told exactly what they're doing, but I met the head of the seven lords of darkness, and he tried to trick me into entering their territory, and he almost succeeded. If it wasn't for a grandmother who intervened and almost tackled me because they had tricked me. This is an interesting story.
That's typical.
Yeah, they're very good at what they do, and they're very tricky. And
sneaky, tricky.
Yes, indeed. Would you like to know what they did? I mean, it's an involved story.
Me. Yeah. Go ahead.
He came to me the night. The Sundance is a 4-day event, and the third day always falls on a solstice. And because, the ebb and flow we're talking about with, the intelligence acceleration technology software, it's the strongest during equinoxes and solstices. And that's why Earth's ancient cultures were so obsessed with tracking solstices and equinoxes through, Stonehenge and ancient structures and, how they're composed and designed. Mm-hmm. So the third day of the Sundance is, the second day is when this gentleman approached me. This is so involved. He approached me and said, I had a dream and it had everything to do with you last night. And it's come true because someone that was in your dream is here now in the physical. And when that happens, if something happens in the dream and then it's realized in the real world, it gets reenacted at a Sundance. So we're reenacting your dream. By the way, I didn't know he was the head of the seven lords of darkness at this point. So I said, what the hell are you even talking about? Because he said, we're going to reenact your dream tomorrow. But mind you, this has been going on for 27,000 years. I'm thinking, what the hell are they reenacting a dream that had something to do with me at this Sundance? And so the next day happens, and this is when I told Chief Golden Light Eagle was the Sundance chief. And I told him I would not participate. And that's when the veil dropped, and he told me exactly who he is and what was going on there. But he also told me a weird thing is he said, Michael, if you enter their territory, you're going to be laying on the ground crying out for your mama. You're going to have your thumb in your mouth, and you're going to have the cleanest thumb of anybody in this whole place. I thought, how weird. Why is he saying this to me? Like the fur went up on the back of my neck,
Really?
He knew what I didn't because he knew this head of the dark side had planned to trick me into entering their territory. Because once you enter that territory, you've signed a waiver, so to speak, that you're giving your energy away to whatever's inside that territory. So,
well, that's
I
kind
can
of
tell you
deceitful.
what.
They don't tell you that, though, do they? So you just
In a
figure it
way,
out.
they do in the culture, you know, but not to that point, and not that there's two sides that are going to be, you know, seeing
Yeah.
what they can
So
do.
these seven lords on white, who are they? I mean, what are they? Are they? I mean,
Well, have you heard of like people like Gene Roddenberry saying that he was approached by Council of Nine? Does that ring a bell?
Gene. Yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot of. Yeah. Okay. There's a couple of
Yeah,
people
the
that say
Council of
they talk
Nine
to the
and Sammy
Council of
Hagar
Nine.
was approached, and his production company is actually called Production Nine. But the Council of Nine is actually two unseen members. So that leaves seven, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but I'm going to finish this, and then please don't let me get off track to telling you why. Because it deals with the experiment to accelerate human conscious evolution. And if you're doing some kind of experiment, you'd want some type of counsel to see how your experiment's going, right?
Right.
So, man, I don't want to spin out here.
You won't, but I got a quick question for you. If that's
Maybe it'll spark my. Oh, who are the seven lords of light, and why are they in that position?
Yeah.
So if there's seven lords of light and seven lords of darkness, but Enlil holds a seat on both sides, light and dark, that actually leaves six, right? So it's actually a council of 12 with him in the middle. So when you hear people talk about a council of 12, that's what we're talking about. If you hear the council of 9, that's what we're talking about. If you hear the council of 7, that's what we're talking about. But long ago, when the Pleiadians, seeing that we didn't have the time to purge the human shadow, and they wanted to help, but this gets into the whole myth of the flood, because the flood's real. You know, it happened 27,000 years ago, and this gets so involved. But they decided part of the Anunnaki was going to let us perish, but my side went. You know, Inky was not pure blood Anunnaki. He had a Pleiadian mother. Not a lot of people know that. So the Anunnaki are part Pleiadian. Half of the family tree is hybrids that are Syrian or Anunnaki and Pleiadian or Wingmaker.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, well, why do this experiment of yours to create this ark, this DNA library to save mankind, if using our future sight, mankind doesn't make it anyhow, that we self-implode and we aim our weapons at ourselves. So why even just let them perish? And it was said that I went to the Pleiadian side and I said, well, let's think of something. And the idea was, what if we made mankind experience its own mental energy in an accelerated fashion? In theory, wouldn't that make us evolve and purge our shadow or balance, whatever you want to call it, do our shadow work at a quicker rate, because we'd be experiencing our own mental energy? And like I said, unbiasedly, if you put out darkness, you get back darkness at, you know, anywhere from 1 to 10 magnifold, we'll say. So at this point, this is 27,000 years ago. Think of how long this experiment to accelerate human conscious evolution has been going on, with two sides. They said the Team Bad Cop, it's all about seeing if they believe mankind will always give their energy away. So their job is to make sure no one gets through the proverbial Stargate into higher realms. Will get through if they give their energy and I am away to illusionary outside sources. Well, how do they do that? Well, they see if you'll give your energy and your I am away to illusionary outside sources. It's tricky. Oh, let me finish that story, because being tricky and how they almost tricked me in.
Yeah.
They
okay.
So what they had done was actually the dream, I didn't know it at the time, but I learned after the fact, was I had a friend that was sun dancing for the first time. And as you know, they don't eat or drink for 4 days. And in the dream, my friend was dancing for the very first time, and he collapsed. And that's what brought me into the circle. And to help him, throw him over my shoulder and take him to the hospital. And I didn't know this, but they had, in the physical then, this head of the bad cop went to one of my friends that was sun dancing for the first time and said, "Hey, would you fake passing out?" And he said, "Well, sure." Didn't even ask why, which I asked him about this after the fact, but we'll get to that. So he faked passing out. I almost flipped out. I didn't know, but think of what I'm telling you is they're very good at making things appear as what they're not. I was responding to total illusion as if it was reality. There was never nothing wrong. He was never in harm's way. He was faking passing out. And after about 10 minutes of him laying like a rag doll, lifeless, in the middle of the Sundance circle, the Sundancers went and grabbed him and took him. There's a tree involved that they attached to. And they drug him to the tree and started to tie him up. That's when I stood up and I said, "I will tear this effing place apart." And I was going in, and that's when the grandmother almost stopped. Like, I know the idea of Sundance is, you have supporters for loved ones that are dancing. So every bit of food you take or every sip of water, you send the nutrients to your loved one through telepathy. And, you drink for them. So she handed me a glass of lemon water and she said, "Here, drink for him." And I knew what she was saying, so I drank for him. Matter of fact, if anyone's ever drank a glass of water on this planet for someone, I did. And when I was done, I don't know where she got it, but she had another glass waiting for me. I understand now she was only running interference, because when I was done, I was still heading into the circle. But at that point, my friend was back up on his feet and dancing like there was nothing wrong. So I never had to enter. I can tell you it was close. And then, afterwards, what Inwil told me, he said, "What you experienced, the trickiest way that the dark have to get you to enter their territory is through love and compassion." He said, yeah, he said, which is interesting, because he said it's like coming across someone drowning in life's quicksand and thinking that the way to help them is to jump in with them. And he said, all you do is end up with two people drowning in the quicksand. You have to stand on your own firm ground and throw out a life buoy or a hand or a rope or something, throw out a lifeline. And he told me, because now, mind you, he holds a seat on the dark side. He said, what you experienced is them trying to trick you in through your love and compassion. And he said, we had a gentleman that we had been trying to get to Sundance or to Pierce, and he never would. And he said 1 year when he came, his brother had got cancer, and they said, "Will you dance for your brother?" And he said, yes, I will. And he said, then we had him. And by the way, after all this, and they didn't get me. And like I said, I almost feel like, well, it wasn't me. It was the grandmother that saved the day, right? But, the voice is like, well, they were using trickery to get you in. So sending a grandmother to time travel to run interference isn't any less valid then, Right. But they were very tricky, and I think they do it. But by the way, did you see the brand new Matrix movie that just came out?
No. Wait a minute. Revolution, was it?
I think that's what it was.
The one where you keep slipping back into the Matrix, basically, is what.
Remember
how you're pulled back in. Yeah.
Yeah, and they kept using her daughter against her. Yeah. And finally, she kicked him in the head, and he said, "Here's for using children." It's the same lesson, that they'll use love and compassion against you. But, part of me is like, well, F that. I will enter to help a friend out every time. And thank God there's a grandmother there, but according to their rules.
I just think that they give humanity far too bad of a rap, because our genetics was manipulated. If it was left alone, there wouldn't be that problem.
But they said if they left it alone, we wouldn't have survived.
Why?
And we would have been dead at the last pole shift, which was not caused by the Anunnaki, like some people claim. It's a natural occurrence, and the crust has slipped many times in the past because the Earth is off axis, you know?
Why is
and
it off
once
axis?
The ice caps reach maturity, it exerts such a force down that the rock structure turns into a lubricant, turns into a toothpaste consistency, and the ice caps relocate to the equator, pulling the crust of the Earth. And the whole thing happens in about 8 hours. So can you imagine if you're on the North Pole and you end up on the South Pole in 8 hours? That's why woolly mammoths were slammed to the ground with fresh vegetation still stuck in their mouth. That is the event that caused all of this. But what I can tell you is, and I don't agree with this, like who the hell, they said we'll have a much better understanding of the time cycles involved with the Mayan calendar. And the Mayan calendar has time periods of light and time periods of darkness. And even back in Egypt, there was dark ages and light ages. Dark ages were always when men took over and screwed everything up, and we became barbarians and warlike. And then we would go into matriarchy time when females took over and mankind would flourish, and we would be able to show our true intention. They said that hasn't ended, but the problem that I got was this dark Messiah, is what he's called in some ancient tablets that I know of, had the last 7,000 years, he's been in charge. And it's his spiritual role to reflect back the worst case scenario of mankind's behavior to Enlil, to the king. And he actually asked me afterwards, by the way, after all this went down, he came up to me and said, we would have had you if you didn't have that mutated blood. He was pissed because according to these tablets, which people don't know about right now, but look into the Michigan artifacts. But it says that if the other side shows up and, if there's one person that the dark can't trick into giving their energy and their I am away, the gig's up. Because guess what? We're all one. If one person can do it, we can all do it. And that's what happened there is the gig stopped in 2016. And the last person that did it was King Solomon. And I don't know, I'm not biblical at all, but this does get pretty biblical. It's weird. But so in these tablets, it says that if one person is brought before the Council of Darkness, which is all, Enlil said it's all about self-inflicted suffering brought about by your own free will. The light side is going to see what kind of love and compassion you bring to any suffering that comes your way. But there is one shortcut, and that is the person that prays for rain shuts the system down because it's in their mind control on the dark side to never pray for rain. At a Sundance, you want to suffer as much as possible. You want to be as hot as possible. And so you're brainwashed to never pray for rain. And Enlil told me, we're controlling those drummers' rhythmic patterns, the whistles that they're blowing, the time, to change the human consciousness into a more susceptible state of consciousness. But if the light is going to see what kind of love and compassion you bring to any suffering that comes your way, if you pray for rain, and they know if it's to alleviate the suffering of your brothers and sisters, first of all, you've proven that you're not susceptible to mind control of the dark because you prayed for rain, and that once you out loud pray for rain, you don't have to go through any of the 7 Lords of Light testing to see how you respond to any suffering that comes your way. It's like game's up, and
who are the Lords of Light? Are these
they are the council? They're Anunnaki. that were formed as the council that would oversee. They're known as the Watchers because they're watching over human evolution. And they've been for a very long time. And what I understand is that upon all of our death, you'll be brought before these 7 light and 7 dark. And they can take a deep look in and see exactly how you respond to life's trial and tribulations. Do you respond with love or do you respond with fear? And, it was interesting because, Enlil, Chief Golden Light Eagle, is sitting there and, the veil had dropped. He told me everything. And he said, this is the most compassionate version of this. And mind you, this happens in all cultures, but if you're in China, it's not going to be gift wrapped in Native American Indian culture. It's going to be, but it's the same thing being tested. That's what the 7 Lords of Light and 7 Lords of Darkness are, is the council that was formed to see how we're doing in this experiment to accelerate human conscious evolution. And but if the dark, one person was brought before them that they couldn't fool into entering, then this dark one that's been in control for 7,000 years would be taken out of power, and we'd enter the next golden age. I said, truly, that's what happened in 2016. I know it looks ugly out there, but they said things can't be healed until they're revealed. And we're in a huge revealing of all the corruption. And it's all leading to 2024, the full totality eclipse that's coming up. Like I said, when day turns to night and all eyes will be to the sky. And in these tablets that we're talking about, I already knew it, but it says that the Elohim, the mighty ones of old, it's Elohim, Watchers, Shining Ones, is all Anunnaki. That's not what they call themselves, by the way. That's our word for them. They call their planet the Saamai, and we call it Nibiru. And they call the people of the Saamai the Saam. And Saam, translated to Western culture, is Sam. So, like, the people in the NSA just refer to them as Sam. But, I understand the question, well, who the hell put them in charge? And it's truly the Pleiadians, because humankind, from what I understand, before the genetic manipulation, was a Pleiadian soul carrier. So this explains why, too, if you look into the folklore of the Anunnaki, the king of the Anunnaki, his name was Anu, A-N-U.
Oh, yeah.
And he had a Pleiadian queen as a wife. Well, how the hell did that happen? And I'll tell you, there's not a lot of information out there on that. But if you were the Pleiadian queen, I can guarantee you'd be really interested on this experiment that was going to be administered to your children and to see how it went. Because even with the Pleiadians, but this is an interesting point, too, because there was genetic manipulation to jumpstart us and make us.
I thought they dumbed us down. I don't think they jump-started us. I thought we were dumbed down.
That's not my understanding. I just got to say, they said at that point, not that it's anything derogatory, but we were in the stage of drinking from ditches and grazing on all fours and maybe a little bit above a chimpanzee. That don't mean anything derogatory, because guess what? All life in this universe goes through evolution. Stages. Yeah, and they keep telling me the acorn is no less significant than the giant oak it will one day become. But it was because, first of all, going forward in time, the Pleiadians knew that whatever this race was that would become wingmakers. In the future, they would have became pure-blood, high Pleiadian beings. They were just at an early state of evolution. And without any genetic interference, we wouldn't have made it. According to what I've been told, well,
I'm sure that the Anunnaki themselves are going to be biased toward themselves, right?
Well, no, half of the bloodline went to bat and to prove the side of the family that didn't look favorably on mankind. we became human and said, we'll prove you wrong. And, to prove mankind and to represent mankind before the council means you have to become human, and you have to go under the veil and come at no higher frequency than the normal human. And but they said that's what created the bloodline, by the way, of the increase of creatine kinase, because when they tried to incarnate to help, long ago, and the Anunnaki Inky side incarnated into the human avatar, that there wasn't enough energy to have them have it work, and they were spontaneously combust into flames. And no matter how much you want to help, bursting into flames wasn't very going to work out. So that's when they devised this plan to create an offshoot of the human genome that had more prana, more chi available, and it's done through an increase of the enzyme creatine kinase. And I learned from the insiders from the NSA, it is an Anunnaki virus. So the Harvard professor was correct, that is exactly what's happening. But I'm pissed with who gave him control over the last 7,000 years. That seems very unfair, but that side is done now. And I can tell you, though, there is a cataclysm on the schedule, but it's a three-way path in the road. And one is heaven on earth. The first, let's go through the three options. One is our elite and people in charge know that there's what's called Comet Apophis, and it's on its way, no doubt about it. It will be here in 2029, and it will pass between the Earth and the Moon, but then it gets caught in Earth's gravity, and it orbits, I think, 4 more times, each time with a decreasing orbit until 2036, and then it impacts, and it's a civilization-ending event. And then sitting next to Chief Golden White Eagle at a conference in Lille, he announces to the crowd, us Native Americans have got permission to reveal prophecy that there is a celestial object entering our solar system that will be here in 2036. But the moon has said she'll take the hit for us. Still horrific. And now, I can tell you there is an option 3, and it's none of those two. But once the veil dropped at Sundance, I was taken at a Sundance. There's a curtain that no one goes behind other than the chief. No one's allowed back there. He took me, and the whole thing we talked about was Comet Apophis and what could be done. And I said, listen, the team I was brought into by the remote viewers and, reverse engineering, in 2012, there was Hurricane Sandy that was coming into New York, and earthquake Charlotte that brought a tsunami. 20-foot wall of water was heading towards Hawaii, and we sussed up to the Anunnaki table through remote viewing techniques and asked for their help. And as you know, most of the energy was taken out of Hurricane Sandy, and when that wall of water hit Hawaii, it had all the energy taken out, and it was only like an inch high. And guess what, man? Tsunami buoys don't lie. And that was all over the news. They knew it was like 4 hours, the wave's going to be here. They took everyone live on TV to higher ground on Hawaii. But I asked Chief Golden Light Eagle, by the way, man, I just don't want to keep using, it's the same person. Enlil, Yahweh, Chief Golden Light Eagle. He knew, by the way. He said, people keep asking me if I read Zechariah Sitchin's books. He said, why would I? It's about me. Why would I need to read a book? And my point with the History Channel show is he told the producers, they said, what is a chief? And he pointed to his headdress. He said, every feather has a story attached. But he said, most people don't know that there are 2 different kinds of chiefs. There's war chiefs and there's peace chiefs. And he said, this bonnet, this headdress is the only one that is both. I was like, holy crap, he's telling them that he's Enlil. People don't know how to interpret what he's telling them, but I can tell you the grandmothers know. Matter of fact, they said, we're glad that you're revealing that the mound builders are the Atlanteans, and it's the Anunnaki human hybrid bloodline, which is proven by listeners. Just Google haplogroup X2A. You'll find out a brand new DNA haplogroup was found in the late 1990s. It's not that long ago. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is it's only found in 3% of the Native American Indians. Still to this day, could be much higher, but the fact is not too many Indians or Native Americans. Some don't like being called Indian, but I really don't care. Anyhow, that a lot of them haven't had blood work done, but they know at least 3%. But then when you go backwards in time, where you find haplogroup X2A, this is just DNA science now, is the tall skeletal remains that have been removed out of mound sites like Serpent Mound in Ohio. A 9-foot individual was removed out of Serpent Mound, but it had the shins and feet removed, and it was still 9 foot. Jeez. So you can imagine it was probably a 12 or 13-foot individual. But then when you keep going further back in time, when you find the largest congregation of that bloodline, that's going to tell you where it came from. And it's the hills of Galilee. This is the lost tribe of Israel. It's the Sangreal, Holy Grail bloodline. That's why Enlil or Yahweh was here. And it's why the oldest 10 Commandments on this planet was found in the Newark Earthworks mound site in Ohio, not Egypt. And the first menorah ever seen, which has nothing to do with candles. It's a depiction of the council, right? There's one in the middle and 3 on each side, man. It's the 7 Lords councils. And again, look into the 7 Lords tablet in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. And so, man, I know I just dropped a lot of info, but
yeah, you sure did. But it's fascinating and very, very interesting. Now, there was one thing I wanted to ask. I had put it up earlier, but I didn't want to interrupt you. Someone had said, and I've heard this before, that some of the like Enlil is in court now, answering for some of the things that he did with humanity. No,
really could be, because remember, he said this isn't the first time we met. We met before, and it wasn't pleasant. He said, but I realize now you were only showing me my own darkness. I came here to prove him wrong, that humanity is not slave labor, and he was proven wrong. And he knows it now. And a matter of fact, like I said, we became dear friends, and the last thing that happened before he dropped his robe was, are you familiar with the Mitchell Hedges crystal skull?
Mitchell. What was that? I'm sorry.
Are you familiar with the Mitchell Hedges crystal skull?
Oh, the crystal skull, yes. Mitchell Hedges in particular, not necessarily, but I am familiar with crystal skulls and their energetics.
The most famous crystal skull. It's the 13th, and it's the one the Indiana Jones films were based on and everything. Well, it came back into my life in a big way, and we're working together right now. But the last thing that happened was I brought the skull to. By the way, Chief Golden White Eagle told me it's over 400,000 years old, and I can tell you that the skull went to Hewlett Packard because they use quartz crystal in computer circuits and whatnot. And under their microscopes, they can't find any tool marks. And so they said this thing shouldn't even exist. But so there is a mount site that is unknown to mankind right now, and it's the Hall of Records North American mount site, and it takes over a mile to walk around. It's very huge. But me and Chief brought the skull there with a lot of the Navajo elder and a lot of other elders. And Anu is here in this meat suit as well, and he was there. And we did ceremony to unlock this information to mankind. And I can tell you, I know this sounds fantastical, but the work that we started has now come to fruition in Canada. Your listeners can type in University of Ottawa Star Knowledge, and you'll come across what's called the Star Knowledge Symposia. And what's happening, first of all, Ottawa is Canada's capital city. And now you can go, and they're actually teaching classes on star knowledge and what we've learned from contact. Not only that, the Canadian Public Corporation filmed a show with us called Star Beams, and that aired last August all across Canada. And it's interesting because the Anunnaki told me the whole goal is for mankind to become a galactic society, and that that wouldn't happen through the voice of any governance that's on this planet right now. It wouldn't happen through Biden. It's not going to happen through Trump. No. It's not going to happen through Putin. They told me it's going to happen through the voice of the Native American culture. And I thought, good luck with that, right? That's a big ask.
I'm sorry.
And, but then all of a sudden, this happened in Canada. And when you type in University of Ottawa Star Knowledge, and you come to the announcement that this is went live, look down to who is actually funding that. Hey, baby girl. The dog came up to see me. Look at who is funding this initiative. It's the United States government. I was like, what? So if you want truth about extraterrestrial contact from the United States, you got to go to Canada. I know they're scared shitless because they have, this is the lost tribe of Israel. There ain't no way around it. It's proven in DNA now.
You're talking about the Indian or Native Americans
coming in through the Native American Indian culture. And look at what, ask any fundamentalist Christian, what role do you have with the lost tribe of Israel? It's like, well, we're supposed to protect them and cherish them and learn from them. They're culture bringers, always have been. Cody Quatzal, all through history, when our side shows up, culture happens and is given to mankind. And boy, my brain keeps going, oh, we didn't even get into water yet. Because that's what I'm bringing to the planet, is actually we're about ready to enter a time of living water on this planet. And it's through all of this. But also this prophecy, that is the Native American Indian prophecy of a new group of people who will be born on this planet, who will prove through their actions that they're more interested in humanity's well-being than their own pocketbooks, will be put into positions of power, and they will make this earth green again. Well, we can get into the technology I'm bringing, which turns dead municipal tap water into living holy water.
Yes, I've heard many times before about our tap water is dead. Well, it's it's poisoned as well because it's full of fluoride, which never should have been added in the first place.
Technology that is just a crystal disc, and it has a very specific frequency that is encoded into the disc using quantum entanglement and holographic principles through a cymatic image of the frequency. Because if you know about the holographic principle, by the way, it's pretty
about holographic stuff. Yeah, basically.
So if there's a picture in regular photography of a rose and you cut it in half, top of the negative you'd have the top of the rose and then the stem in the bottom. But a holographic negative, you can cut it in half and you'll still have two complete roses. If you cut those in half, so now you got 4 pieces. Every single one of those will be the complete rose, but just from perspective, a different angle. No matter how small you cut it, it still contains all of the image. So in the same way, imagine that if you use science to actually record frequencies result on Mother Nature and record what that is, and then they taught me how to encase it in quartz crystal and wrap it in copper. It becomes a very, very energetic energy working tool. But like I said, NASA got involved, and I got all the photography. And one thing, they tested municipal tap water from California, And under their photography, they can show how much photonic light energy is contained in a droplet of water. Because you can imagine,
right?
NASA wants to send the most energetic water for astronauts as possible. So they've developed the technology to see how much energy is in water. So they tested municipal tap water, they tested spring water from Canada, and they tested Nevian spring water. What they did was they did the tap water first. And if you see the photography, which I've released and it's available on my website, it looks almost dead. It looks like a little tiny pinprick of light, like in the night sky, like a tiniest star. But then they took my disc and put that exact same water on it, just used it as a coaster and let it sit there for 15 minutes. And then they retested the water and it looks like a supernova of energy went off. It looks like a sun exploded within the droplet of water. And then they tested it again at 30 minutes and again at 50 minutes. And they said the longer they kept the water on the disc, it was focusing the light into a laser beam of energy. They said they'd never seen it before in any restructuring water technology. Because you can spin water, you can vortex it, you can put it through magnetic fields, and it will bring energy back into water. But in every case, the periphery of the light pattern gets bigger, but more diffuse. They said for the first time ever that this technology that I'm proud that it came through me, but it came from the Anunnaki and myself. But it revitalizes dead municipal tap water back into spring water energetics. But now she said, I don't think it's done doing its thing in even 50 minutes. She recommended putting a glass of water on it at night and then letting it sit all night and then drink it in the morning. And do that just as a ritual. Every night I do it. I just put a glass on there and I drink it, because I can tell you what they're finding out now is, imagine what happens even when you use that water for agriculture. And it's natural GMO. It creates crops that are pervious to drought. They yield much larger and quicker. And the actual nutritional value per bite is more than doubled. So imagine when you
GMOs
it's
are
mind
horrible.
blowing. But one thing I want to say is, I know Elon Musk is a weird dude, ain't he? I don't know what to think with AI and him warning us and then going, well, here's Neuralink. I'm like, what the hell's going on with this thing?
Yeah, kind of talking out of both sides of his mouth, as they say, because on the one hand, he sounds as if he's anti-AI, and on the other, he has something like Neuralink. I mean, come on, where do you stand, really? But anyway, that's a major split that I see, to go the AI route or to go the organic route. And I'm all in favor of the organic route.
Because I can tell you, NASA contacted me and said, we want you to be aware that Elon Musk is accepting submissions for humanity's Hall of Fame crystal time capsule. That is a whole library of human knowledge of everything, every language, every circuit. And they're using quantum computing and nanotechnology to put all of it into a crystal, and it's being taken to the moon, and it's going to be there for the next 10 billion years at least. So they said, we think you should submit your image and a little blurb on why 432 is important. So it's been accepted, and it's being broadcast to the moon next month and forevermore. This is so exciting to me. Because imagine if NASA can see that. First of all, I asked the biophysicist from NASA, I said, well, wait a minute. If there is no energy, but now there's tons of energy, isn't that some form of unlimited free energy? I said, where's the extra energy coming from? Is it coming from our solar system? Is it coming from our sun, our planet's electromagnetic fields, our planet's tectonic plates? And she said, no. It's coming from another dimension. That toasted my noodle. I was like, wait, what? I never had to ask myself, what's it mean to be drinking water that is confirmed by NASA has energy from another dimension in it? And I can tell you it activates DNA for one thing. But I think that this extra energy is actually, everything is made of light. right? All
Right.
physical matter. Our reality is created from light and sound.
Well,
And that's truly what star knowledge is. So if NASA can see that this technology, she said, it's it's opening a wormhole, a portal through the fabric of our space-time that's bringing in energy from another dimension. And if NASA can see it, I can guarantee you, well, Elon Musk just put that same image into very advanced quartz crystal that is filled with toroidal physics, uh, portals within the crystal, and it's going to the moon. And as I said, I don't think it's coincidence that the Wingmaker's intelligence acceleration technology is being broadcast from the moon. Now, technology that's going to override that previous signal we've been under is going to be bathing this planet forevermore. And, as you seem really hip on water, water is alive and it has memory. And, let's say you have one of my discs. Once you charge the water with that disc, um, if you just take a drop of it and enter it into another container of water that's never been introduced to the frequency, it'll restructure all that water as well. So what does that mean if you restructure your container of water and you take it to your local waterways and your streams and your creeks and your rivers and your ponds and your lakes and your oceans, and all of us become water bearers and start to feed holy living water into our waterways. But man, this technology that's going to the moon is going to do it for us, period. Because pretty soon, all the rain that comes down, everything's going to turn into living water. And I'm a firm believer now, water holds the Akashic record.
I think you're right about that. I really do, because I remember hearing you say that. And because they have even found in Silicon Valley, they're just astounded at how much information water can hold. And they haven't even found the limit of it, for that matter.
Yes.
So,
yeah, there might not be a limit. But think of this. Are you familiar with Dr. Emoto?
Oh, yes, definitely. As a matter of fact, I have had they took him out, But anyway, the director, Mick Hill, I have a hard time saying her name, but she is carrying on his work. And I did have her on the show, and she's doing wonderful things for giving away children's books that are, the kind of training that children should have had eons ago. It's just really good, and explaining about water and explaining about thoughts and explaining, the types of things that Dr. Emoto had demonstrated to people.
Well, let me ask you a question. He proved that if you tape thought forms to the water, that if it's love-based thought forms that go along with evolution and along with divine life force, it creates perfect geometry, creates snowflake images. But if you do negative thought forms, it creates puddles. It creates no
distortion,
cohesion.
Yeah.
But think of municipal tap water. All of that's a closed loop system, and we keep drinking water that has come in contact with all the other humans that drank it, and it came in contact with, and it's going to have its shine dimmed. But now, if you take that same glass of water, that if you put it under NASA's equipment, no energy. But if you then put it on one of my discs, it's beaming with energy. If you took that water and used it with Dr. Emoto's testing, it will have had its shine returned. So does that mean that when you use this, that you no longer take in trap thought forms that are in municipal tap water that we've been drinking over and over and over again for a very long time? And I don't know the answer, obviously, but I can tell you I've got the proof that it will resurrect and revitalize dead municipal tap water back into water that looks like a supernova.
Well, see, I don't think people would really realize that thought forms could actually be coming to them through the water. And one of the things that's really interesting that based on what you're saying, and we just had a guest on about the whales. There are silvertail whales that are going to be I don't know how to put this, but added to our ocean, and they're required on every single planet in order for a planet to even exist. I don't know what happened to the originals, the founder whales, but it all has to do with what they will inject into the frequency of the ocean water. And they're getting the light codes from they're getting the light information from the sun, putting it into codes that then can in turn, see, our water, we're 80-90% water. And when you think, if we're full of dead water, gee, it's wonder we can think at all. I mean, for everything that humanity has had thrown at them, it's amazing that they are living and walking and still going around, because I mean,
Well, you know what's very interesting is I heard, this gets very complicated, but a lot of these Earth past monuments, Giza, Chichen Itza, they're all encoding 432 based math and physics in the actual structure and layout. And they said that was on purpose, that during this dark age, it would keep us from going too low. That there's like, I don't know what you would call that, but technology that was put in through actually encoding cosmic harmonious frequencies into the dimensions, blueprints, and layouts of these ancient sites all over the planet kept us from dipping too low. But man, we've taken it pretty darn dark. But that wasn't something new I just learned, because I started, what's weird is, precessional cycle numbers. People like Graham Hancock have proven that. I love Graham. We're friends now. I met him and I've shared a lot with him. And
I wanted to have a show with him. Maybe you can hook us up.
I can reach out to him. Sometimes he's a little hard to get a hold of, but
I'm not.
I learned about 432 from him. Let me tell you one thing I learned is,
oh wow,
the Anunnaki have been guiding us into cosmic harmonious frequencies that would lead mankind to unlimited free energy that is clean. And they've been doing it forever. Like if you look at, they gave us the idea in Sumer to multiply and divide whole units by 12. And whether it's 12 inches in a foot, 12 hours in a day, 12 apostles, 12 days of Christmas, 12 inches in a foot, it just goes on and on and on. Well, go back to 12 hours in a day. Look at how many seconds is in 12 hours. It's 43,200. It's 432. So what Graham told me was, that's interesting, because if you take that exact same number, 43,200, and multiply it by the height and the width or length of the pyramid in Giza, you get the actual dimensions of planet Earth. That's really interesting. But not only that, he's got the side angle of the Giza pyramid at 51.86. But then I learned that we now know it's 8-sided. It's not 4-sided. And that means there's got to be more than one side angle. So I'm thinking, what's the other side angle? Well, I got to back up and tell you about a crop circle that showed up. And that's one night, they had already guided me into the importance of the 7-pointed star. And the fact that the 7-pointed star is forever intertwined into the 432 based math and physics. Because if you take a 432 base frequency, which is 27 hertz, is exactly 4 octaves below 432, and you put that through a cymatic scientific device, you get a perfect 7-pointed star. So, and then you find out, like, the world map of Babylon that sits in a museum is a 7-pointed star. This hybrid bloodline that came in through the Native American Indians, look at what the symbol for the Cherokee tribe, it's a 7-pointed star. So when they encoded the 7-pointed star into the crop circle, every crop circle from that point forward, and I could tell you too, it involved a 7-pointed star, and I just realized the cymatics that the 7-pointed star is 432 related. The next thing that happened is I realized the year prior, a crop circle form that encoded in ASCII binary code was E equals MC squared. And you could tell it's the same author, which Inky. And I thought, what does 432 and the 7-pointed star have to do with E equals MC squared? And the answer is 432 squared is C. 432 times 432 is the speed of light within 1% accuracy. I happen to think it's right on the money. But so to say it in another way, 432 base frequencies squared becomes C. The speed of light squared times mass equals energy. So 432 base frequencies are the only frequencies that are truly harmonics of light, because everything's made of light, and our whole reality that we experience as our everyday reality is based on 432. And so this gets interesting too, because we can get into more encoding of 432 through ancient cultures. I got a list, but
we have that emitting from our cell phones rather than the other harmful frequencies.
It's very interesting. Look into I heard 5G is only stepping stones, and they just put it over to the 430 megahertz frequency. And we will be moving right along that more Tesla, not Elon Musk. I'm talking about Nikola Tesla-based technology, because actually another thing that's good from Elon Musk is it's not as bad for a human if it's taken off planet and, Starlink. But anyhow,
Can I interject?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Can you explain what you just said about 5G? What is I don't know the megahertz range that you just discussed.
Be careful. That's a very sensitive topic too.
Oh,
we might
sorry.
just want to call it. No, don't be sorry. It's okay. It irritates me.
Yeah,
to
just
no
Google
it. That we have to censor anything.
No.
But
We can talk about it. We just can't say it the way I just said it. We have to say,
yeah.
Yeah. But so 432 being, what's that?
Can you explain that technology that we can't say?
It works on a very specific frequency, and it's 432 based now. It's just science, I know they don't like science.
So,
but it's science. It is. But not only that, I got involved with NASA. They formed a team, and it was because Richard Hoagland brought me in because of my being schooled by the Anunnaki into the 432 subject. And a radio astronomer started, his name is Jimmy Blanchett, by the way. You should reach out to him, or I can put you in contact. But anyhow, messages that are scientifically confirmable started coming in on the 432 hertz megahertz frequency. And we're talking the movie Contact, verifiable, very advanced physics and science that is all 432 based. I can tell you one thing that that came through this communication is they said that, the mathematical constant of pi times the golden ratio, the golden mean, divided by 60 equals 432. They're all very interrelated, and it's going to lead mankind to a brand new subject. But getting back, I know this is jumping around a lot. Getting back to one night, and I'm trying to go to sleep, and this voice is like, you got to get up and divide a circle by 7. And I'm like, how about no? I'm trying to go to sleep. Leave me alone. And they're like, well, you've not learned anything yet then. So I had to go to my wife, sorry, honey, I got to get up and do some math. She's like, okay, go ahead, you freak. So I go into the office and I type in 360, it's a circle, right? 360 divided by 7. And it's 51.428. And I'm thinking, well, so what? The first thing that happened is when I found out that the pyramid was 8-sided, I thought, well, wait a minute, there's a hidden angle. And those 8 sides only reveal themselves on solstices on the pyramid, just like I think it's Chichen Itza, the pyramid that
Oh,
you can
wow.
only see the serpent coming down
I
the
didn't know
steps.
that. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, only twice a year does it look like there's you can see a serpent that comes down the pyramid. And in the same way, the 8 sides are only revealed on this day. And I said, I wonder what the other frequency is. And they said, Michael, subtract your 51.428 that we gave you. And I did. And it's 432. So let's rewind for a minute. Imagine they encoded the 432 subject not only into the pyramid, that if you multiply it by 43,200, the exact amount of seconds that's in 12 hours, and you get the proper dimensions of planet Earth. But if you divide the 51.428 arc from the 51.86 accepted side angle of the pyramid, you get 432. That is engineering that's on a whole other level, I can't even, my brain is kind of, it's hard, to get around that. But
starting to hurt now.
Right? But it even gets better because the next thing I'm led to, by the way, Inky is a title. It's not a name. It means Lord of the Earth. And Lord means ambassador, by the way. So I can share with you the actual Elon Musk submission that's included in this library now. And it says, Michael Lee Hill, official Earth ambassador. I'm like, oh my God, that's Inky. Earth is Kai, and ambassador or Lord is N. N Kai means ambassador of the Earth. But anyhow,
wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, but Ia is a title as well. It's not a name. It is. It means grandfather in the most ancient Native American First Nation languages. For the Dakota, it's Iada, and as they told me, that, like she said, let's use the word grandfather as an example. This is Grandmother Morningstar, by the way, is telling me all this. And let me tell you one thing about her. She brought me into her minivan at the Sundance and said, I want to talk to you about the migration route of our people into North America long ago. She said, wouldn't it be nice to have a map of the United States, though? And she waved her hand over her minivan window, and a map of the United States appeared from nowhere. It looked like a holographic Star Wars map. It was all red and looked like a computer holographic map of the United States. And she looked at me really intently and she said, I know you can see it. It's like, yep, it's right there. There's no not seeing it, So she showed me the migration route of our people that came in from the Mayan cultures where we went first. But when the blood sacrifice ceremony set in there, we got the hell out of Dodge and we went to Crystal River, Florida, which is right here by me where I am. And then we exited the top of Florida eventually and intertwined into the interior of North America, becoming known as what is known today as the Mound Builders. And the right migration route went all the way up around the Great Lakes, becoming the Cherokee. I'm Iroquois, Seneca, and like the Huron tribe on the other side of the Great Lakes. But getting back to Inky's name, they said like this, Ia is a title, not a name. It means grandfather. Inky is a title, not a name. They said, your name is Michael. It's always been Michael, but Spirit knows you as Rainbow Warrior Eagle. I was going to get into the prophecy of the Hopi is the Rainbow Warrior prophecy. And that's the name I was given by Enlil's people, which is the Eagle Nation. My people here was known as the Serpent Clan. And when someone of the Eagle Nation vets someone of the Serpent Clan through the 7 Lords of Light and the 7 Lords of Darkness, and you get deemed a clean vessel, because Grandmother Morningstar said, you are the rainbow that we've been waiting for. Man, some of this gets weird. I know it sounds egotistical, but I can't share the story without telling you exactly what was said. And she said, rainbow does not mean the same to us that it means to other people, that the human chakras, there's 7 that we mainly know about and are the main vortex, Merkaba centers. She said each chakra emits light, but only when it's clean and balanced and spinning freely. And your chakras emit the colors of the rainbow, from red in the root through the chakras into purple in the crown, and all the other colors of the rainbow through the other chakras. She said to those of us that are gifted with the gift of sight, you've become the whirling rainbow. And so that's why I was given the name Rainbow Warrior Eagle. But what happened was, it was very strange, because if you picture the Eagle Nation vetting you, that you become rainbow or eagle status to the Native American First Nations. Eagle status is almost like Christ consciousness. It's the eagle is the only bird that doesn't seek shelter under the storm. It rides above the storm and gets the bird's eye and sees the bigger picture. So that's what they call open chakras, and rainbow is attached. So Rainbow Warrior Eagle. But if the eagle has vetted someone of the serpent clan and gave them rainbow status, they've been said to become the feathered serpent. Isn't that interesting?
Wow.
So
yes, wow. Oh my goodness.
So it's a status again, but Michael, right? So I'm giving my name Rainbow Warrior Eagle at a Star Knowledge conference by Enlil, and part of it is they recognize me. And by the way, again, this isn't my bag. I was pretty much agnostic before my awakening, but they recognize me as the current incarnation of Archangel Michael. And they gave me back Archangel Michael's crystal sword that they said had been within their keep for a very long time. And they said it was created from the same technology that the Mitchell Hedges crystal skull was. And it is beautiful. It's sitting in my home right now. And it has the serpent and the egg going down the crystal shaft. And then it has Inky symbol back in Sumer was an eclipse moon symbol. That's what's going down the handle. And then a floral de lis is on the shaft. And I know it sounds batshit crazy, but it's sitting here.
Wow.
But this all gets into the 51.428. They told me to get up and, divide a circle by 7. They show me in my mind's eye, and you can do this along with me, and your listeners can too, to picture in your third eye a circle. Now, go 1/7 around that circle in your mind's eye with a astral highlighter. I call it a Anunnaki magic marker. Go 1/7 away around the circle. That's 51.428. Highlight it, and then let the rest of the circle fall away. So now you only got that almost like a frowny face sitting there. And then they mirrored it and brought it up. So the mirroring of it was a smiley face, and it came up and met itself. And they said it was never an ARK, it was an ARC. That's the Ark of the Covenant. And it's 7-pointed star related, which is 432 base related, you see. So so what happened was they said now this is communication with them through telepathy, and it turned into guidance to being led to certain. They said you need to look into where all the crop circles are showing up in the UK. And I'm like, well, okay. So I do. And there is a ley line that goes through Avebury and through Stonehenge. And that ley line is specifically on Earth's longitude line of 51.428. Guess what that ley line is called? You might know.
Stonehenge, the ley line. No, I don't know what it is. I don't know that one.
It's called St. Michael and Mary's ley line. And it's the most famous ley line on the planet. And they told me that there's a story waiting for mankind that if you go to all those Templar temples and ancient stone sites and mound sites and pay attention to what's being communicated, and it's the story of Michael and Mary, because I thought, well, what the hell does Archangel Michael and Mary have to do with one another?
Please,
there is a connection. So, yeah, they made it clear that They said, don't feel bad, though. Like I said, when I met the Anunnaki, they said, we're removing your memory blocks. And first of all, I thought, wait a minute, I have memory blocks? What the hell is that about? And I remember even thinking, this is 2008. How would suppressed memories that have been blocked because I couldn't come in with my full functioning consciousness and still represent mankind before the council? And from what they said, I risked it all. Like, to prove my brother wrong, that we were more than slave labor, I came in and went under the veil, and that's how it works. No one gets a free ride. And if you come here to help, you can't come at any higher frequency than any other normal human. So there's memory blocks and technology used, and you get plugged into the Earth mass consciousness belief system at birth, just like anyone else, and you adopt the mass consciousness's hopes, dreams, and fears through your DNA upon birth. And like you said, though, that means every single one of us have to break up out of it, because no one's immune, and everyone gets put through the machine.
And dead water isn't helping us wake up either.
No, but that's what I'm here for.
Food.
I think, it's weird because people are like, well, if you're Inky, what have you done? I'm like, you know what? You have not you, but the proverbial you have no clue what I've done. I've saved millions of lives already by working with the NSA and the Anunnaki and, stopping the storms of 2012. And I've brought technology that will create living water across this whole planet. And I don't, to me, I feel like I've already did what I came to do. I could leave tomorrow and my legacy is complete. It's going to be on the moon for the next 10 billion years. And anyone that looks into anything I've revealed, you can watch this story on the History Channel. I'm not making it up. You can look into the science I've given. I'm not making it up. I can show you the NASA stuff. This isn't my overworked imagination, and I'm okay with it. I don't need, if I wanted attention, one thing I'd be promoting way more, because of the History Channel revealing that I don't have normal human blood. They found out that I was adopted. So they asked me if I could contact my biological parents for the first time. And that's when I found out that my mother is close to pure blood, Seneca of the Iroquois. But do you know who I found out was my biological father?
I've heard, but why don't you go ahead and tell the listening audience?
It's Eric Clapton.
It blew me away when I heard that.
Oh, me too. My mother was like, "Are you sitting down?" And enough. But the fact is, if my guitar, how can I say this without?
I don't mean to interrupt, but if we want this to go up on Odyssey too, it's limited to 2 hours, so we would have to call it a wrap at this point. Otherwise, it won't go up.
Oh wow, we went for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Isn't that wonderful? They say time flies when you're having fun. I really enjoyed our conversation. And we're just at the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more. We could go through, there was 7 crop circles that were involved in my communication.
I want you to come back on a semi-regular basis so we can get all this information out there if you're willing.
Well, I appreciate it.
I think it needs to happen. It's important.
I agree, and I really appreciate having a platform to share. And this is for humanity, and so I thank you for giving me a platform.
And I will be back in touch with you because we have to do this again.
Right on. I'm in.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hey, by the way, can you use images during this broadcast?
Oh, yeah.
Like for the future?
Yes.
Oh, I will give you images for everything to talk about. It'll make it so much easier. There's so much encoded in these crop circles.
Fantastic. I will be in touch with you. Probably tomorrow, set something up ahead of time so we got it on the schedule, if that's okay.
But I know it sounds weird about all these other titles. Just so we can end this on this, they told me we've all lived many, many lives. So many lives that names become useless. What we are is truly nameless, but not voiceless. And so I'm okay with being Mike, you know?
Fantastic. That is so true. And people are going to finally learn that to be true because the religions taught us just the opposite. So anyway, thank you so much. And we will bring Michael back again. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. And peace to everybody. Peace on earth.
What a concept, eh?
Right?
Really? Okay. Thank you. Goodbye.
Peace. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.